Atleti side who've been looking a lot better since the break in action, since they returned to action from the World Cup. As for Real Madrid, well, there's a lot of talk about their midfield right now. Here's what Carlo Ancelotti had to say about the men in the middle. He said, "I don't need to explain the fact that sometimes Kroos and Modric don't play. It's a moment of transition in the squad that everyone has to understand. It's about the understanding of the veterans and the patience of the youngsters. That was important to our success last season too." Gemma, what's been the feeling about this back in Spain? Is this a period of transition for Real Madrid?
Oh, well, maybe it's too soon to say that. It's true that after the World Cup, the performances, the level of these performances have dropped so much, and there is the red lights are starting to be turned on in the Santiago Bernabeu. But I mean, Ancelotti even said that he knew it would be a difficult season, especially because his midfield, they are players that are veteran players, and they need to be back to the competitive level. But they are not talking about, I mean, you can never say that about Real Madrid, because until the very last minute they have their chances, and they will, of course, fight until the end. But of course, the football that they are showing lately is not what we are used in the beginning of the season. But at the end, when the key players, the key games arrive, and we're talking about probably when they face Liverpool or at the end of the season of La Liga, they always manage to get that competitive, special Real Madrid DNA and to be there at the high level.
Luis, tomorrow, should Kroos and Modric start the game?
I would say that it's quite difficult to see them at the moment, the way that they have been performing to putting together. I don't know. I think that is amazing what Ancelotti just mentioned. It's not easy to see a manager just talking about a transition moment for those of the biggest players that we've seen in the midfield in the history of football, Kroos and Modric. One winning the Ballon d'Or, winning of every single trophy. And I think that is quite open to say that. And it's true that at the moment, if this Real Madrid that is been struggling, I will say even further from what Gemma was mentioning, even before the World Cup, it was struggling to get results. We all remember the 3-2 loss against Rayo Vallecano in November. But at the end, because of the talent of the players that they got from, they managed to keep going and continue getting results. But the way that this Real Madrid has been playing, it hasn't been enough for the crowd. It hasn't been enough for Ancelotti, I think. And now is the moment where having those two players into the middle, he knows that he's going to have a lot of problems because the intensity is not there. They are two players that cannot cover as much space as they had before. Tchouaméni is not there because he's injured. He's not anymore Casemiro. He was kind of the saver of these two players, the one who was making all the time the coverage for them. So I think that at the moment, bringing another player, call it Valverde, call it Camavinga, is something that Ancelotti is going to manage in the coming months. So I'm not sure if he's going to use anymore. Maybe at some point we've seen it making the two changes in the second half of the last game, and then to try to keep the ball. But from the very beginning, I'm not sure if you're going to see it a lot of times of the rest of the season.
Ancelotti wanted to highlight the performance of Camavinga in the last game. Obviously, Ceballos as well is doing his part in proving that he can play a part. Is it a cause for concern, the midfield for Real Madrid?
Absolutely, it's a cause for concern. When you think about Real Madrid and what they've done so well, we can focus on Benzema and Vini Jr., right? And their run in Champions League. And okay, that makes sense, Rodrigo off the bench. But really, at the core of their success is the control that they usually have through the midfield and how they're able to dictate the pace of the game. If they're not controlling the midfield, they become stretched. And when they become stretched, that back four cannot withstand pressure. And that's when they start breaking down. And that's when Courtois is having to come up with saves. And if he's not coming up with saves, they're giving up goals. If they don't control the game through the midfield, Real Madrid becomes very, very vulnerable. That's the sort of situation that we're going through right now. And so, look, Toni Kroos is not getting any younger. Luka Modric is not getting any younger. But you have addressed some of those concerns. This is why you're bringing Tchouaméni. That's why you have Fede Valverde. That's why you have Camavinga. That's why you have Dani Ceballos. These are players that can play the position. Now they're going to have to show that indeed they can take that sort of responsibility. One more point on Luka Modric. Following the 2018 World Cup, he had difficulties getting back from the physical stress that was the run that they had with Croatia in that World Cup. I cannot help but think that if he was a struggle in 2018, 4 years later, I have to imagine it is a struggle again to get back physically. And what we're seeing, certainly from the case of Luka Modric, is that physically, right now, he's not quite there. The legs are not quite there. The mind is not quite there. This is, in my estimation, the definition of a World Cup hangover in the case of Luka Modric.
Is this the best time for this Atleti side then to take advantage and get a result against Real Madrid?
Well, you'd have to think so, that, you know, all things are not quite rosy in the garden. And supposedly, we've got this new attacking style Atletico Madrid. So, you know, you put those pieces together and on paper, it looks as though this is perfect timing for Atleti. However,
here we go.
Real Madrid are the masters of when they're up against it, when they're being questioned. We're talking about the keeper or the back four or the midfield. They're too old, they're too young. I mean, we're coming out with it all. But you know what they do? They turn up and somehow they get the victory. They get it done. Add to that, I don't have any confidence that Atleti are going to revert back to type and are going to sit tight and try and break. So, no.
Hang on.
This has got Real Madrid winning all over it.
The good news is we have a former Atleti player here with us. Surely Luis Garcia is going to give Atleti a win tomorrow.
I got my doubt as well. It's true, and I agree with Steve, is that Real Madrid know how to pull results from this kind of moment. Even when they look that and I think that the last Super Cup is a massive example of how this Real Madrid always race from nowhere. When they are in trouble, when they look like they cannot anymore, they cannot run, suddenly they start running, they start pressing, they start scoring goals, and we cannot forget that up front they have players who can finalize, and that's something very special, very difficult to find, with Karim Benzema as the main man, with Vinicius Jr., with Valverde, with Rodrigo, players who can capitalize any single chance. And we've seen it in the last game. They were not doing anything. They were being dominated by Athletic Club de Bilbao. But in 2 chances that Real Madrid managed, one of them they went into the net. And that's the way that this Real Madrid is getting results at the moment. Atletico Madrid needs to continue building on what they are, this kind of momentum. They had a fantastic game against Valladolid, 3 goals, Morata. Now they got Memphis Depay back into Atletico Madrid, so it's going to give them something special, with Griezmann being the key player and without Joao Felix. So can they manage to get a good result against Real Madrid? Yes, but they have to do it with a very good defense and trying to bring that ball to the main man up front, that is Griezmann. And from there on, I think that they can win this Real Madrid. But Real Madrid is Real Madrid.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.